subject?
You'll all be glad to know it's definitely not the singing part, and it's definitely not the playing guitar part. This is why we have a collaboration. So I work for Red Hat. I help develop Quarkus, and you'll see where Quarkus comes into this story in a little bit.
Oh, exciting. So where to start? Well, it's actually very easy. You just have to open up a job opening site or search the web for job openings, and you'll see stuff like this. Wanted, Rockstar developer. I don't know why, but companies want rock stars to be working for them or something, and it's not just a single case, right? Actually, we've done the work for you.
Yeah, if you're looking for a job, here you
If you're
go.
looking for a job and you feel like you lead a rockstar life or you want to lead a rockstar life, there are so many opportunities ready and waiting for you to be a rockstar developer. But we were wondering, what are these companies thinking if they are asking for rockstar developers? Do they even know what they're asking? Because if they are actually getting what they're asking, well, this is probably what would happen, right? They get the rockstar developer and they go do all rocky stuff, and I don't know if much software is going to be published in the end, but...
Yeah, I'm fairly sure I've done the second one when my code wasn't compiling.
Right. So, a good friend of ours and a colleague speaker of ours thought it was time to end this nonsense, right? Of job openings asking for rockstar developers. And I think he might have been inspired by the tweet that was up here, right?
Yep.
Let's put an end to this once and for all. And Holly has some details on how that idea came about.
Yes, I wasn't actually there, so this is all secondhand. But this is the story that I heard from Dylan. And Dylan was actually here 2 years ago telling this same story. So I can see some nods. So how many of you saw Dylan tell this story? All of you. Okay, so we'll go quick. So now what you can do is you can compare the truth against my version, and then there's another lesson there in how things get changed. So as I understand it, Dylan had thought about the recruitment ads, and then he went to Australia for a conference, and he did his talk, and then he was chatting, and he thought, wouldn't it be fun to not just say Rockstar developer, but to actually properly write the spec for the language. And then he went to the bar, and so there was a beer or two or six, and so then after the beer or two or six, the idea turned into an actual specification. Although this isn't quite right, because of course this was in Australia, so everything was upside down. So you have to sort of imagine it more like that. But the lesson here really is that sometimes we say that developers are machines for turning coffee into code, but there's a second part of that, which is that developers are machines for turning beer into ridiculous language specifications. So because of Dylan's great work before us, you too can become a certified Rockstar developer, and he's got the stickers and everything. So what is Rockstar? Well, Rockstar is what's known as an esoteric language. And that's basically a polite way of saying it's really, really useless. And it turns out, you would think there wouldn't be many of these since they're useless, but actually, there's quite a few. One of the best known ones is, well, I won't say it because it's a rude word. Yep. it rhymes with duck. Right. And it's got a really limited number of characters, so it's just sort of plus, minus, greater than, some braces. And so if you were in that language and you wanted to do hello world, it would come out like that. So it's not the most expressive language. I think you'd really struggle to know what that was without a lot of help. But this is actually really expressive compared to some of the esoteric languages. This is a language called chicken. The only tokens in chicken are the word chicken and new lines and spaces. And you would think this is completely ridiculous, and you'd be right, but it's actually sort of not that different from if you think about what all of our code happens to in the end. It gets turned into zeros and ones. And this is kind of like zeros and ones, except that the ones are the word chicken, because you can. So there's all these languages, and then Rockstar came along. And people got pretty excited by Rockstar, and so there's now quite a few implementations of Rockstar. So there's Satriani, which is the reference implementation. There's Rocky, which is an interpreter written in Java. There's Rockstar Java, which is also an interpreter written in Java. There's Kaiser Ruby, and Hanno had to explain the joke for that one to me, but it is written in Ruby.
Ruby, Ruby, Ruby!
There's Maiden, which is written in Rust, which is quite sweet. And I mean, there's lots more. So why are we here? Well, there's a lot of implementations, but none of them are JVM languages. That is a gap that has to be fixed, right? Like, how can we carry on in the world without a JVM language implementation of Rockstar? More to the point, why did we need another implementation? Well, because it was there, and because we could do it. And this is basically what developers are like, right? If you see a solved problem and a developer in the same room, the developer will resolve that problem. But we had the first thing that we had to solve was naming it, because naming is the hardest problem in computer science. So if you have a hard problem and you have a computer, what you need is AI. Can AI help us name it? Well, we tried a few. So the first one was the Brew Fighters, which is, from the Foo Fighters. I like as well, the AI helpfully labeled the jokes. So if you get something like Kaiser Ruby that I didn't understand, you'd be there.
Yeah, we had the Cream Roasters.
It's pretty...
We didn't come up with this one.
Yeah, there was Java Leopard. There's
Guns and Coffees.
I mean, this is getting worse. There's Black Sabbath Blend.
Mokka Crew.
Van Halentino. No. Yeah. I mean, actually, that doesn't even make any... The more I look at that, the worse I get.
Rolling scones doesn't even have to do anything with coffee. Just assumes that you like scones with your coffee.
Yeah, and scones and coffee, I'm sure, is a crime. There's Grind Maiden. I mean, yeah. What about...
ACD Calf.
Okay, that one is okay. And, now we've got Dire Coffee Straits. This one I stared at for so long trying to figure it out, and the only thing I can think of is, again, because a lot of these large language models, they work by word association, basically, and words that are commonly together, will be returned. And so I guess people talk about Dire Coffee all the time, and so then they talk about Dire Straits, and so then it seemed like, but I mean, no. We had to give up on the AI and use our own brains. So the first one we came up with was Rockstar Bucks. Yeah, see, I thought that one was really good, but I decided not to use it because I thought I'd get sued really badly. It turns out there was 2 reasons not to use it, and that was only one of them. What about Jep Leopard? But, yes, you have to sort of know what's going on with the Jep. So what about...
Bon Jova.
Bon Jova. I think, yeah. You could do Bon Jova, you could do Bon Javi, the possibilities are, 2. And so I started sort of, thinking about Bon Jova, and then this came across my Twitter feed, which is their college kid just called using the phone, which shows that it was a really serious emergency, to ask if Bon Jovi was a real person. And then, there's this sort of addition of like, in many cultures, they have a Bon Jovi figure, a bit like you have Santa Claus and it has different names, and then you have, Bon Jovi and it has different names. So, Germans know him as Guten Joven, and, in Brazil, he's Bon Miao, and, what is it in Dutch?
Yeah, I came up with Goede Joop, but if there's any Dutch people here, they'll probably think it's nonsense, so even if you speak Dutch, you'll think it's nonsense.
Okay, so enough about the naming. What have we got? What does Bon Jova look like? So.
Yeah, we put living on our prayer with every demo part because praying to the demo gods, right?
Yeah.
So you'll see plenty of that throughout the slide deck.
Okay, so I'm going to, we obviously have to start with hello world because we're programmers. So I'm going to make hello.rock. Node. And ready?
Ready? Christine says hello, world. Whisper, Christine.
Oh,
Oh, did you want to write say?
no. I was doing so well until... Okay, there we go. So let's see what happens. We've got our first Rockstar program. Now what we can do is we can compile it using our JVM instrument implementation. So
Java minus CP, Jova Rockstar implementation. Target classes tilde M2 repository IO. Quarkus/gizmo gizmo 1.7.0. Need I go on or?
you get the idea. So now that we've done that, we can we can have a look, and we have a hello class. And so now I can run, actually I can put it on my class path and I can run it and we get
Yay!
hello world.
Woo.
Oh, totally.
Otherwise it wouldn't work.
Right, so now we can go back and carry on. Okay. So what did we just see? It kind of looked a little bit like normal code, more like normal code than Chicken did, but still a little bit different. So let's go through so that you can follow what we're going to do, some of the syntax elements of Rockstar. So the first rule of Rockstar is if you can't sing it, you can't have it. So the point of Rockstar is that it's the lyrical conventions of 1980s hair ballads. They did not have tildes and ampersands and that
Curly
kind
braces.
of thing.
Nope, forbidden.
No, definitely no curly braces. So let's see some more. So let me go back to my... I'm going to be lazy and I'm just going to reuse the same file all the time.
So Holly, does that mean that we cannot comment our code if we can't use anything that we can sing?
Well, you can comment a little bit, yeah. So comments are discouraged, but if you want to have a comment, I'll show you how to do it. So we can do the and here's where we get into the comment bit. So if it's in parentheses, that's only for you all. And so we can have that, and then I can compile that again. Are you going to sing it again? No, you're not going to sing it again.
Nope.
And then we've got that.
There we go.
So.
That's so cool, a program that you can sing. Immediately makes me very happy.
Yeah. And so just going back to this, the other concept that we saw there is what's known as a poetic number literal. So in Rockstar, you could have normal literals, and you do have that sometimes, but you also use words as literals. So that top sing it, the length of the word is a digit. So there, sing is 4 and 2 is, so you've got sing it. So let's see a different example.
The tide is low, a ball flung about, beach abandoned, no soiree meets the shore. Whisper the tide. I know soiree doesn't make sense, but I had to use a 6-letter word, so
Yes,
I was going for party
it's
or
really
dance,
hard.
but
Yeah.
you know,
So
festivities.
anybody want to guess what this is? Yes, yeah,
very good.
you got it, you got it.
Very good.
So compile that. And then run it. You got it, yeah. So next.
So actually, punctuation is ignored apart from that period there that denotes the decimal separator. Yeah.
So I'm going to get a head start on this because we're discovering I cannot type as fast as Hanno can sing.
Open was my heart. Listen to your heart. If your heart is open, say love will find a way. If your heart is open, say love is here to stay. I'll say living on my own.
Cool. That one. So we can. Each time, I hope that's going to be in my history since I just typed it, and each
it's not.
time I am disappointed. So if we run that, whoa. Now you can see, if you wanted to evidence that this was a JVM language, what's going on there? Okay, let's try. So what we're looking at, there we go, cool. So it was reading from standard in, it needed a standard in. So if we do that, then we can, 25. Thank you.
Yeah.
So,
So we've just seen conditionals, right? And we also seen input. So we read from input, stored in a variable, compare it, and based on the comparison, it executes a different code path. Very useful feature, right?
no, totally important features.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, next one. So let's have a look at loops.
The walls are high, mighty, while the walls ain't nothing. Knock the walls down, shout the wall. Finished are our hopes and dreams. Very dark here. Our city is in need of rebuilding, while our city isn't finished. Build our city up, shout the city.
And once again, it is not in my history. Whoa! Our city. Oh dear. Yeah. Fix that. Thank you. All right, let's try that again. So compiled. And woo, we've got the loop running.
Yes, we did a loop
You
there.
can scroll up and you've got the loop running. Okay, next. So the you can see the while loop there was sort of fairly familiar, and the build it down, knock it up is increment and decrement. Okay.
Your heart is true, your stories are okay. If your heart ain't wrong and your story ain't lies, say you're a trustworthy friend.
Okay, our typing's going wrong. Luckily it's a literal, it doesn't matter.
Else, whisper would not recommend.
So you can see here we've got all the synonyms for true and false, like lies and okay and wrong. So we can compile that, and once again.
And we just used rhyming for the first time. That makes me so happy. Being able to rhyme in your programs, that's what's been missing from my daily work life.
Yep. Oh dear. So we
Totally has been.
Yeah, that is bad typing, but it works. So okay, last one. That one. Okay. Now we're going to start functions. So, so that's the declaration of the function.
Mama wants power, send power times power. Rock bands with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Very strange music this. Mama wants power, send power times power. Rock bands with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wild bands, let charge be poppins. Shout mama, taking charge. Wild bands, let charge be poppins. Shout mama, taking charge. Mama wants power!
Fail. Oh, I can't see what's wrong with that one. 5? Yeah, it's missing 5. But I don't think that makes a difference.
Mama should be capitalized, I think.
It should be case insensitive. Oh, yes, maybe it is case sensitive. Normally it's case insensitive, but it might be case sensitive for the first thing. Okay, let's try that. It's yeah, there's 3 forms of variable declarations. There's normal declarations. You can have it with like a pronoun in front of it, and you can also have a proper name. So like something like Eleanor Rigby.
Yeah, we could do a deep dive on it if you're.
Yeah, but no. Okay, well, I think you get the idea. You can see.
Yeah,
where
we
that
just
was
defined a
going.
function that.
Yeah, we sort of defined a function.
We sort of defined a function, right?
Yeah, we tried to define a function. Okay. So let's just scoot through that. Scoot, because we showed all that. But each time I had to like do that big compilation string, and that was annoying for me. It was probably annoying for you. So there's got to be like a better way to run Java programs in 2024, right? Yes.
Use Quarkus.
You can use Quarkus. So why would we want to use Quarkus? Well, obviously, Quarkus rocks. And of course, I would say that. I work on Quarkus. But in this case, we literally mean that Quarkus rocks. We did like a bunch of sort of tour stuff. So we did like the Quarkus World Tour. We don't have it anymore, which is a real shame. But we used to have like a booth, and then you could get your photo taken at the booth. And so by complete coincidence, this was from 2022, and that is Hanno somewhere. Well, he told me it was him. I don't know. He maybe just.
I didn't shave for a while. So.
Yeah. And there's me with some colleagues. And as well, we've got like stickers. So we have the coolest stickers. And we have a lot of cool stickers. So you can... I don't think I have all of these, but I do have a good selection of these. So come see us at the end for our rock and roll stickers. And there's, of course, all sorts of other reasons why you would want to run your Rockstar program on on Quarkus, beyond just the fact that it rocks. So there's live coding, so we don't have to keep recompiling. You could do native compilation of your Rockstar programs, which is clearly a missing thing.
Yeah.
A lot of what we've tried to do with Quarkus is thinking about the development experience. And so instead of having to have like a whole bunch of boilerplate, you can skip the boilerplate and it figures out what you're trying to do. I think for Rockstar, that's actually a bit less relevant. Rockstar programs by design are as long and as verbose as possible. So that there, it's not quite the right fit for Quarkus, but
It does save some time, so you can spend it on coming up with poetry, right?
yeah.
So
Yeah, true. Less time on the stuff you don't want to do, more time on the stuff you do want to do, like rhyming. There's the dev UI. And then, of course, there's the integration with all of the other Java libraries. And there is a marketplace of extensions. So how do you do it? How did we do it? Well, first thing we did was we wrote a JVM language. Easy. And the first thing to do for that was to write a parser. But actually, you shouldn't write a parser first. You should just use Antler, because writing a parser by hand is a solved problem. And as we all know, definitely don't solve solved problems. So I needed an Antler grammar. And I thought, this is hard. I don't know how to do this. Let's see if AI can help. It sort of like gave something that looked convincing. But then it sort of said, OK, you can do this with parentheses and that kind of thing. There are no parentheses in Rockstar except for the comments. So it just, it was not right. So I gave up on AI, and I went to the internet. And I did it the old-fashioned way, which is copying and pasting off the internet, because it turns out any problem you want to solve, someone has already solved. There is an Antler grammar for Rockstar, so I took that and used that. It still took me a little while, because it took me a while to understand what was going on with Antler. But once it clicked, Antler is really, really useful tool. How many of you have used Antler? Yeah, maybe 5 or 10. For the rest of you, it's worth learning how to put that into your toolkit. It is good. So the basic idea with Antler is that you want to start with a document, and you want to get to some output or action. Because, you know, in our case, we want to start with a Rockstar program, and then we want to end up with bytecode at the end via a process of bytecode generation. With the parser, what you're doing is you have an intermediate stage. So you go to an abstract syntax tree, and then you go from that abstract syntax tree to bytecode. And then there's sort of more intermediate steps as well. So the first thing that happens is that your Rockstar program gets split up into zillions of tokens by a process known as lexing. And then those tokens get put back together into bigger units called rules. And that's sort of I think you would call that stage the parsing stage, but basically it's like a reassembly stage. But all of that actually is happening at parse time. And there's a whole bunch of work that you need to do before parsing to make that process work. So what you need to do is you define your Antler grammar. And that tells Antler how to interpret your document. And so in that grammar, you define a whole bunch of fragment definitions, and you define a whole bunch of tokens, and you define a whole bunch of rules. And then once you have all of those, you can send them, and Antler will use them to generate a whole bunch of Java types that represent your rules. And it will also generate an interface, which is your abstract syntax tree listener interface. And this is where I got a little bit stuck. But that middle stage is all done by Antler. The top stage, obviously, of defining the grammar and defining the program is done by you. And so I'd sort of done those two stages, and then I really didn't have a compiled Rockstar program in any way, so I didn't know what to do next. But it turns out that there's another bit that you do, and that's at the bottom. Once you've got your Java types, you can then provide an implementation of the listener that has the actions to do what you actually want to do. And yeah, that was the bit that I found kind of confusing, but then once I got it, it made a lot of sense. And so thinking about the sort of the tokens and that kind of thing, that if the document is a story, then the fragments are like letters, and the tokens are like words, and then the rules are like sentences and paragraphs, and they can be recursive and they can nest, so you can have quite complex rules, and it will do things like look ahead and all sorts of useful things that you definitely wouldn't want to code yourself. So for a sort of a snippet of the Rockstar grammar, you've got like a fragment S that sort of represents capital S or lowercase case s. You can see we've got that case insensitivity built in. And then you can define constants for things like the token, or tokens for the things like the constants rather. So you have empty and silence and silent that are synonyms for each other. And then you can define a rule that says, okay, if I have any of those, then I've got a constant, or if I have true, then it's a constant. So that top one is the fragment, the middle one is the token, and then the bottom one is a fairly simple rule. And it's quite useful because it's using really a regex-like syntax. So you've got, you know, your ors and your asterisks, and so once you kind of know what you're doing, it all looks fairly familiar. But once you get into a complex grammar, you are going to need a debugger. So definitely make use of, if you do go into the world of Antler, make use of the tools that are there, because they will help you to solve all sorts of problems. And then once you've got your grammar correct, then you can start implementing your listener. So then you might have something like that. So listening to when you enter the program, and then listening to when you enter the statement. Once you've done all that, you can then go on to the thing that you're actually trying to do, which is the bytecode. Bytecode is another thing that I have, in general, tried to avoid in my life. I have definitely tried to avoid ASM, because if you wanted to, in ASM, if you wanted to do Hello World, it would look a bit like that, but actually that font is a tiny font, but it is too large a font. Hello World is actually that in ASM, and all you've done is Hello World. And the thing about ASM that really never quite made sense to me is, because it's this tree walker model, everything that you do is visiting, and so the visiting is not it's here visiting means create, which never made sense to me. So I was quite relieved to leave ASM behind after about 10 minutes of trying to make it work in ASM and failing, and go on. There's higher level libraries on top of ASM. There's a few options. A bunch of my colleagues in Quarkus work on one called Gizmo. That's what we use in Quarkus for a lot of the bytecode generation that we do. So I was quite happy to use Gizmo. Once we've done that, we can go on to the Quarkus bit.
Yes, and we decided to write a Quarkus extension to also benefit from the features that Quarkus gives us, like live reload and tests that are running and updating while we are adding Rockstar programs, which is a very important feature, of course. So that's what we did. We wrote a Quarkus extension so that you can natively run Rockstar programs and, well, see the result in your Quarkus app at the moment you need it. So as of 2 days ago, I think, Holly, it is now an official Quarkus extension.
Yeah. Yeah, so we've got a Quarkus catalog. If you go there and you search for alt languages, you can find, you know, some boring ones like Kotlin and Scala, and then you can find the important one.
Yeah, so we're really excited about that. And what did we learn about, you know, creating Quarkus extensions? Well, what did I learn? Because Holly works for Red Hat, I don't work for Red Hat, and I was really eager to try and create one of those extension thingies, right, for the first time in my life.
Before we do that, actually, let's see it in action.
Yeah, let's do that first.
Yeah, another live demo. What could possibly go wrong? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear that. So I'm going to make a Quarkus app first. So if I do Quarkus create, that scaffolds up an app. So if I go to my directory, I have stuff like a pom.xml that got created for me, but we're not going to talk about the pom.xml because pom.xml is not rock and roll. So instead, let's just fire up my IDE. And now we've got our code. And so what I'm going to do, I've made it slightly too big and now it's gone off the edge of my screen and I can't get it back because I don't know why. Okay, so let's bring up the terminal, which is also off the edge of my screen and I can't get it back. I'm just going to close that. What? Yeah, okay, we'll do that. Okay, so I've got a source folder that has boring stuff like Java. I'm going to make a new directory that has Rockstar programs in it. And then I'm going to install my extension. So because it's in the catalog, I can do Quarkus-y add Jova, and it will add my extension. And then I can do Quarkus dev, and I can get into Quarkus live reload. So because Rockstar with Jova is a JVM language, it means we can do nice things like write our unit tests in Java if we want to. Just like, you might sometimes write your unit tests in Groovy for your Java code, you can do the same thing.
Like we all do, right?
As we all do, yep. So let's make a new Java class and let's call it Hello World Test. And then let's fill it in. So you can see, because my IDE doesn't know anything about my Rockstar code, I'm using reflection to invoke it because otherwise my IDE will get upset. I'm just grabbing my system out and looking at it. So now if I save this and if I tell Quarkus to start running my tests, then that's disappointing. Then what it should be doing is failing. There we go. Class not found. Hello. Makes sense, I haven't written my program yet. So now let's make a new file and call it hello.rock. And then I can put in back again, say hello world. And hopefully when I go back to my terminal, yes, Quarkus has caught up.
Now
the test was failing. And so now it should have rerun, and it hasn't rerun. So let's manually force the rerun, which I shouldn't have had to do because it should have auto-detected, but I think it's a little bit behind. And so now I've got my test passing. And if I change this and I say, hello, cruel world, and then if I save that, then it should fail. I don't know what it's doing. Well.
You're not living on a prayer enough.
No, it had all gone so well up to this point, and so. But what you can see is, why is it not? Okay, let's quit and restart. Which again, obviously I should not have to do. And let's resume running the tests. Okay, we'll just move on. So what you can see is that I did TDD with with Rockstar, and you can see as well that like one of the reasons that you really want to do TDD is because you don't trust your tests, and TDD helps you validate your test. This is why you should trust your tests, because never trust a test unless you've seen it fail. So yeah, we did TDD with Rockstar. It almost worked. And more generally as well, there's sort of a nice flow that you can do with the Rockstar programs where you do like a red-green refactor, and then you've got your tests, your Java tests, obviously, to support you. So what did we learn?
Yeah, so while creating this extension, I had to figure some stuff out. And
Oh, sorry.
one of the things that I had to figure out was Well, as you all may know, Quarkus is a different way of building Java, right? So a lot of stuff that is done differently in other frameworks. In Quarkus, build augmentation is a very important feature. So everything that can be done before everything is run should be done at build time. That also means that if you write an extension, you should move as much as you can to build time instead of to runtime. It also focuses on developer experience and extensibility. So that's one of the reasons that we wrote the extension, of course. They are meant to seamlessly integrate everything you add to it with existing Quarkus architecture, which translated also means do as much stuff as you can during your build and deploy and not while you are running it.
And that's what makes it fast and small at runtime.
Right. And there is a bit more, because you want some quick feedback while you're coding. Holly already demonstrated it.
I demonstrated the slow feedback and the non-feedback.
Right. And also, we'll probably show it in a few minutes, but you can also add diagnostic information in the Quarkus dev UI. So we also added a few useful data points there. Now, writing the Quarkus extension I found was quite straightforward. There's quite a good guide on the Quarkus website that just lets you execute a few steps, and after you've worked through them all, you've got a working extension. And every extension consists of two parts, right? The runtime module that contains everything that is available to the app developer while it runs. So, for example, sneak peek, we added a few REST endpoints to our Jova extension so that Rockstar programs can be run using a REST URL. Super nice. So that is something that lives inside the runtime module because it has to be exposed on runtime. And the deployment module is where everything happens that augments the build, right? So everything that can be run before runtime lives in the deployment module. It sounded easy enough, but supporting a new language wasn't really the most used use case. I mean,
it was something that we hadn't quite gotten around to documenting properly.
Yeah, I don't understand why, but so actually what I did was I stood on the shoulders of giants by inspecting a lot of code from the existing Kotlin, Scala, and Groovy plugins. And while I was browsing through their code, I noticed that, here are some links, by the way, if you're interested in those extensions. They used an interface compilation provider, which of course is provided by Quarkus, but there wasn't a tutorial to implement that. And these are the most important methods. So you define, you implement this interface and you define the handled extension, which in our case is .rock, so that's easy enough. And then a compile method. And in our case, we just implemented by passing the set of files that is pre-populated here to the compiler that we wrote using Antler and Gizmo. And that is how we got to a working extension. So yeah, what I learned was it's very easy to do, but not if you want to support a different language. Yeah.
And by coincidence, it happens that it is literally my job to improve the extension documentation.
Yeah.
Oops.
So this was a very fruitful cooperation until now.
So let's just have a quick little look at what we did with the dev UI. So we've got that, and if I go to localhost 8080, I can visit the dev UI, and there's a tile for each extension, so now we've got a tile for Jova. And as Hanno mentioned, we've now got some diagnostic information, so I can click to see each of my Rockstar programs that it knows about. If I open that in a new window, I can get the output. So it's detecting each Rock program, it's instrumenting it with a REST endpoint, because obviously you need that. And then as well, it's giving me some guidance. So it's saying my Hello World program, not very rock and roll in its
very rock and roll. Sorry
no,
to say.
So it's like a linter for rockiness. So and this was.
Actually, we did a nice little trick. We just put a curated list of 100 popular rock songs, and then calculated the number of words that were appearing, how many times they were appearing, and then compare the Rockstar program to that. Holly was like, solve it with AI, but I was like, no, let's do it the old-fashioned way. So.
Yeah.
So if Holly would include some words that are in this top 100 list, the Rockstar would probably go up.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And so,
Speaking of AI,
yeah, I'm just going to scoot ahead because we got a bit overexcited with our programming. But we did have a few problems. So I really wanted to do the billion row challenge. I got so close, and we don't have a demo of it because it doesn't quite work, but like that was the code and it almost worked. And I kept emailing Hanno and saying like, oh yeah, I'm nearly there with the billion row challenge. It's like, it's almost there.
I was singing these emails aloud. We're halfway there.
No.
Drove my wife and kids nuts.
Yeah. What it does show, though, is engineers are terrible at estimation. This whole thing took so much longer than I thought it was going to, and so much longer than Hanno thought it was going to. And so we kept setting up practice sessions, and we were like, okay, yeah, this is definitely the final one. We're going to do a run through of the whole talk. And then it was like, oh, yeah, actually, but Hanno, it doesn't work. Sorry. And my husband kept being like, why are you doing this? Why didn't you learn from the last demo? I was like, oh yeah, slow learner. Oops. And
Actually, my wife said the exact same thing, but in Dutch, right? Yeah. We weren't supposed to work on the weekend on your talk. Why are you still doing that? So
yeah. Oops. But we got there. So we've got. Let's show you the big code that we did instead of Mandelbrot, instead of Billion Row Challenge. So let's put that into there, and let's do the thing.
Eddie wants your dedication and a hug. The goal's not so incredible.
Oh no, thank you. I wonder how long that's been like that. Thank you.
The expectations are incredible. So leave it at that?
Yeah, you get the idea. And what that gives you, if I go and I run it. Again, this should not be necessary. It detects, it live reloads. I wrote the code. I tested it so many times. And the demo gods. So let's, yay! Okay, so. But of course, this still does leave a big question, which was, what on earth was the point
what were you thinking?
Any of this? Why did we do it? Well, there's a lot of technical advantages to doing it this way. So you've got, your interop with the other JVM languages if you want it. And, if you want to do something like Lang4j, then you can, integrate it, or you could use the Apache utils if you like those. And you can set your code to, yeah, okay.
My life is so much better now. So.
I think fundamentally, the point really is that even though this is totally stupid, it is play, and play has so much value for learning, and happiness has so much value for productivity. And I can't say that Rockstar made me happy all of the time, like when I was sending the email saying it's almost working, but it really does increase your happiness. Or play increases happiness, which increases productivity. So if you watch a comedy video, your productivity increases by 12%. And the other thing is, because this play, it seems so useless, but it's actually not quite as useless as it seems. So Hanno now knows how to write a Quarkus extension. I now know Antler. And it turns out this problem of I want to take text and do something with it in Quarkus isn't actually as niche as it seems. So after Hanno had written his extension, I saw someone ask a very similar question on Stack Overflow of I have these files and I have a DSL and I want to do something with them in Quarkus. And I was able to take all of Hanno's work without attribution and answer and get Stack Overflow points. So it was ideal for me. So should you wish to write a JVM language on Quarkus, these are the steps. If you do that, you will learn these painful lessons. So Antler is useful. Friends don't let friends use ASM. They use a higher level language. I need to work harder on the Quarkus extension documentation. Sorry about that. making code rhyme is hard. Yeah, seemed like a good idea. I have so much more respect for Dylan now of like those codes that he got to rhyme. LLMs definitely have their place, but they're much better at commonly solved problems. Things like how do I write a Rockstar parser is not a commonly solved problem. LLM is not so good at that. And we're atrocious at figuring out how long
really
things
are.
will do. But we got there. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, we should have had another thing in there about the demo gods. Because it worked. The live reload worked. I promise you, the live reload really, really worked.
We promised 6 things, not 7. So
Yeah.
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 Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the conference.
Yeah.